Beautiful lighting. Wonderful job.
With Big Bend. Nice.
Oh yeah, good framing. Oh, look at that. That
Yeah,
looks
yeah. How about
nice.
that? Little
Yeah.
Texas for you. That
How
was
about that?
unintentional.
Oh man,
Welcome,
fantastic.
AJ. Nice to meet you. Congratulations on being the world's greatest dad and joining us here on World's Greatest Dad. And thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I feel honored that you would reach out, and uh, I'm far from thinking that I'm anywhere near the world's greatest dad. But it means a lot that you guys would consider me, to be guesting on your show. Thank you.
We like executives. Neil's a former executive, so that's I'm always tickled for that. But I feel like we have a certain kind of kinship because I feel like both of us came to Austin knowing that we were coming to a place that might just be, a fun, easier life when it comes to wrangling the old fam, right? And
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, like I think that I love Austin. I love Central Texas more than anything. And I've lived in many parts of the country. I think the reason why I love Central Texas so much is one, the people are wonderful, but also it gave me the opportunity to be a dad. It was hard to
whoa,
do it in New York. It was hard to do it in
yes,
LA.
yeah,
How do you have a family? Even now, I go back to LA every month
mm-hmm,
and I look at folks who want all these things out of life, but they feel tied to a city where they're just like, I can't make it work. And
yeah.
they're like, how did you got to Austin just at the right time? Is it amazing? I'm like, it's because I get to live a more balanced life and actually be a father and provide for my kids. It's cost of living, right? So much of
Yeah,
it is that. So,
I just love the fact that if I have to go pick up my kid, it's 20 minutes, maybe 40 if it's the farther part of town. Now, not everyone has that option or luxury, but after spending 20 years in LA and yeah, I mean that's the one catch 22 is like I feel like that's the American dilemma is like you can think you can want it all but you can't have it all, right? And you put
yeah.
yourself in a place where it's like, "Oh, I could theoretically have it all, but does anyone really have it all?" But dads have a lot when we think
Yeah.
about what we just have in front of us. That's my philosophical moment for the show. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
ready to check out. I think I'm done for the day. Yeah.
I
Ollie's
think
going to
you're right. Go ahead.
introduce our guest. I'm
Yeah, you're right.
realizing we just kind of got right into it. And, we know who you are, AJ, but our listener, we always refer to our listener, which
There's a
that
couple
person
now.
changes from week to week.
Yeah.
Uh, but our listener would love to know who you are. So tee him up.
I know, and it was so natural to get into it because our guest today, AJ Feliciano, happens to be a veteran of the podcast world, having spent nearly 8 years building The Roost, a groundbreaking video podcast network behind hit shows like This Past Weekend with Theo Vaughn and Last Podcast on the Left. Now he is on to his next big adventure, helping launch a new media brand set to debut later this year. AJ is passionate about the future of media and, as we have just learned, raising his family here in Austin, Texas, the place he proudly calls home, as do I. And his most important credit, almost beyond the Theo Vaughn thing, I'm a big Theo Vaughn fan, is being a dad to two kids, both boys ages 6 and 4. AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
I appreciate the re-intro as if we're not just gonna leave it all in. I think actually every 5 minutes we should just introduce him again.
Yeah, totally. I,
Nobody
I
does
have no
that in
problem.
podcasting,
I,
right?
I, I love doing reads. I love doing reads. That was a
Yeah.
part of my former life.
You're a pro, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that it definitely just totally stopped all our beautiful momentum but yeah, it was important. We need to know who you are
Hmm.
as a person, as a human, in addition to being a father, which again is, I think we all agree, probably the greatest thing you've ever done.
Oh, easily, easily, greatest thing I've ever done. Um, the worst thing I've ever attempted to master. Because no one's at, we try, right? We try. And because we're always on, we have slip ups. We're just like, whoa, I need to recalibrate myself and, be a better father in this moment. And so, yeah, we definitely have a standard that we hold ourselves against when it comes to being a dad and both being a provider, but also being an emotional nurturer, right? Making sure that we raise good future adults.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you travel to LA. It seems like you're there pretty frequently.
Mhm.
As great as I think we both realize it is to live in a place like Austin where you're not stuck with crazy commute times, you do a fair amount of traveling for work, and you mentioned this the pressures one has as a provider. How do you balance that out, knowing that you're gone? I mean, how long are you in LA when you're in LA?
Usually about 4 business days. Yeah, I always try to take the first one out on a Monday morning. People think I'm crazy when I take that 6 a.m. flight willingly all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's because time is a commodity and I don't
Yeah,
like to lose an entire day flying, even when it's about getting home to my family. And I'll come back home the final flight of the day on Thursday night so that my kids see me when they wake up in the morning on Friday.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
At 6 and 4, are they? Are you welcomed home as like a conquering hero, like a general who's just returned back to Rome?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
Really?
not.
Okay.
Um, no, usually, usually my kids they'll be like, "Oh, hey," they've already hit that sort of teenage standard but I mean, I'm kidding. There's also moments where they're really funny and they're just like, "What did you bring me?" Because I got into this bad habit of bringing them home, like, a little something from the airport or like, pastries or candy or Lord knows what.
Yeah.
Um, and I do that. I probably should like reel that back in a little bit because now that's their expectation. But I do it because, if I go on a work trip, more often than not, and especially if it's on a work trip to a place I've never been before, there's this guilt that I carry when going to that
Right.
new place
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, man, I almost, aside from work and what I have to get done here, there's always some time for some play, right? And like exploring the city or exploring that new place. I almost don't want to do it because my family isn't there with me to enjoy it with me. It's really weird. And so, I'll bring something back for them and say that, hey, here's something from Chicago. I can't wait to take you there one day,
Mm-hmm.
but here's a little something to get you excited for a future trip to Chicago or something like that.
I mean, I will tell you one of my most fondest memories, and I spent a couple years really just on the road when I was doing a food travel show. It ended up being the last episode of the show. I didn't know it at the time, but I remember I was in Buffalo, New York. It's 2018. At that point, my kid is almost 7 years old, and I had had a habit of picking him up stuffed animals. I love stuffed animals. I still have some of mine that I grew up with. So I remember I was
Mhm.
in the airport in Buffalo, New York. And, disclaimer, Buffalo, New York doesn't have bison, but they seem to embrace the idea of
Yeah.
having a stuffed animal at the airport. And I remember, it's like super early in the morning, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, should I buy this? Has he outgrown it? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy this because there's going to come a time where, the sun really will have set on this opportunity. And it's
Hmm.
something I have never, ever regretted. I cherish it and I encourage you to do it too. I just think it's awesome because your kids aren't going to stay little and interested in knickknacks and toys. Soon they'll be asking you for a Switch too. And it doesn't matter what city it came from. So keep doing it. Keep doing it. That's my take.
Speaking of Switch, I just entered that territory with my 6-year-old.
Oh
We
yeah.
got him a Switch for his birthday this last January, and
Uh huh.
so I've already sort of seen the switch over where now he's just asking for it. But it's also my greatest tool to hold back from him when he's misbehaving.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
Jokes on him. But you're right. Those small little mementos. My father used to work in the airline industry. Well, he not used to. He still does work in the airline industry, and he also used to bring me, my brother, and my sister back things from whether he had to go to another airport and whatever other part of the country or the world, bring it back to us and stuff. And recently my parents are they live up in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and they're cleaning up their entire house. I didn't grow up there, but I grew up in Jersey. But they moved over all of our childhood stuff that's in boxes, and so they asked us, "Hey, we're selling the house. We're gonna go, move to Florida, and we don't want to take everything with us. Start going through your childhood stuff now." And so I'm going through it, and I'm sort of looking at things through a new lens and saying, "Oh, thank God I saved that. Oh, thank God my parents saved that."
Yeah.
It's so special. It's making me think about, the stuff that my kids have. What am I going to save for them that they might appreciate in the future? And those items could include the stuff that have a story that, oh, that's the time my dad went to Chicago and brought me back a, Chicago cop car or whatever.
Yeah, I bought one of
It's,
those too. I bought one of
yeah.
those. Yeah, I think we've done the same. It's very interesting that your dad worked in the airlines because there was one time where I was gone. I came back like a day or two before Christmas, and
Hmm.
I was in at Dulles Airport. I think I bought like it was like the presidential motorcade plus like a whole secret service like accompaniment and stuff like that too. And
Like a whole
it's so fun.
set.
Yeah, and the funny thing is he's got a drawer where a lot of these things all just get compiled, and it's a lot of these vehicles and cars or whatever are all mangled.
Hmm.
But I still have it. I don't know. I just kind of am tickled. I'd much rather buy knickknacks crap for my kid and have that wear out and turn into junk than buy something for myself to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that is a cool thing about being a dad of
Hmm.
the newer generation is to be like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this toy. It's cool and it's okay because I'm a dad and it's my
Hmm.
money. You know?
And it's particularly awesome when, depending on our upbringings, that you have the means to do that, right? And so many of us, um, you know, don't have that. Uh, I wasn't neither like wealthy nor poor growing up, but I know that my status today, like the amount, what I'm bringing home is far more than what my parents were able to do at this age, um, all things considered. And so, what an incredible privilege to be able to, you know, uh, do that for your kids.
Hmm.
But one of the things that, not to switch subjects, this is tangentially related, but sometimes my wife looks over to me. We're either looking at their playroom, all their toys, and like, oh my God, there's so much stuff. And she'll make a comment to me. She's like, are we spoiling them? Or whenever I come home from a trip and I bring them back a gift, like, are we spoiling them?
Hmm.
And she says it in a way, she says that how she definitely grew up poor, and she wants to figure out a way to how do you what's the word, humble our kids a little bit, so that later on as they grow up they understand that having so many toys and having all these different things, and or either expectations that your dad would come home with a gift from his latest trip, that these things can't be assumed, and not everybody has this level of privilege to get these things. And so
Hmm.
it's all about raising good humans in the future, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I feel like growing up with parents that were immigrants from the third world and from a period of history like the middle of the 20th century where
Hmm.
when they talk about walking through a mile of snow or in their case famine, they're not kidding. What's interesting though is there's it's I think it's hard to have them to take your kids back in time and go, oh my God, look how I had it. You know what I mean? I think there's kind of an assumption with some, certainly generationally, where people are like, oh well in my day, right? Something we found, and my God, we are far from do-gooders and always doing the right things, but I think one of the great ways you can illustrate how lucky we are is through any kind of act like community service. We've probably done this, I can count on my hand, the number of times we've done it. But usually on Thanksgiving, and we don't have a huge family, it's just me, my wife, and my son. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
else is everywhere else. For Thanksgiving, we'll go to like a homeless shelter, where they have, some sort of activity where you're essentially, just kind of, I think last Thanksgiving we delivered turkeys to people
That's
and stuff like
incredible.
that. And I mean, it's a pretty, not a big thing. It's just, but even without having to just say it, or I mean, honestly, in the case of my parents, kind of rubbing their nose in it, you're just like, you just see it. It's, we were just having a conversation with the dad recently, and so
Hmm.
much of it, I think some of these lessons you don't have to as a parent, you're like, oh, am I doing it wrong? Right? Or am I missing an opportunity, or am I just doing it wrong? And I think a lot of times some of those lessons, the perspective simply can happen just by exposure, right?
Exposure.
A little osmosis. Because Lord knows that I try to be the world's greatest dad, but
Yeah.
that's all we can do, right?
I mean, you're doing it, and you're right. I think sometimes we underestimate that they're picking up on everything that's going on. So, like, whether you just simply take them somewhere, and it's not like an um, uh, uh, overt lesson, for them, they get it, right? They're learning right from wrong. They're learning, the way that the world is. They're learning, down, up, right to left. So
Hmm.
this is part of their world building and understanding where they are in respect to this expansion of their world that they're seeing, and hopefully, I keep saying, become better humans, um, become good humans in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're already thinking that, then that's certainly in the cards and happening. I think there's two perspectives here. One is like, I can't believe we're doing this. We're actually doing this.
Hmm.
Am I? Should I be in charge of this right now? And then the fact is, you trust that, you have values, and those values will be shared. I gotta close my door. My dog opened the door. I can't. He did that. I don't know.
My
Yeah,
dog's scratching at the door here too.
Yeah, totally. He totally opened the door on me. Left the
it's
door
a great
wide open.
dog.
What's
It's a
that?
gifted dog. It's a gifted dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's had his moments. He has his
Hey,
moments.
don't downplay him.
I
It's funny, the modeling thing is interesting. And I think we all want to raise good humans and hope that we're not screwing it up, and inevitably we probably are in some ways that we won't know until they tell us 30 years from now that their therapist told them something, and we're like, hey, we did the best we could. Um, but I think about, like, even the ways that my wife would always say, rightfully so, I was kind of a jerk to customer service. You know how people are like, it's not how you treat me, it's how you treat the waiter. I don't think I told you
Yes.
this.
Yeah, that's like
I,
a job interview thing. Yeah.
I was a dick to waiters. I
Uh,
was a dick to customer service people, and my wife was like, "What are you? Why do you act that way?" And I kind of learned it. Like, my parents never taught me, "Hey, you treat these people like dirt." But I kind of watched them do it, and I thought, like, "Oh, this is the
mm,
dynamic." And I had to, like, unlearn it. And I
hmm.
do think it's interesting that, like, I think about that and different things from, like, my own childhood sometimes, that you do just, like, learn through osmosis, and you kind of mimic behavior. And so, as much as it's important to, like, tell your kids certain things, I think what we're all saying is, like, show them, be the thing that you want them to grow into, even if they're, like, acting like snot nose, spoiled brats in the moment.
Hmm.
We all act like that in different moments, and I think it's like, well, what are you on average, going to grow
mhm.
into? So, yeah, I just want to tell you guys I used to be a real asshole. So,
I
Well,
love the
it's
fact. Yeah, you worked at Food Network and you treated waiters poorly.
Well,
Maybe
not
there's some.
at that time. I mean, I met, we've been together like 12 years, It was like she whipped me into shape pretty quick.
That's great. I mean, that's all part of growth right there. I mean, learning it at any point is better than never learning it at all, right? So that's fantastic. It's funny that there's like two things sort of happening. It's, walking the walk intentionally so that they see us, but then there's walking the walk unconsciously, right? It's like
Mm,
catching yourself
yeah.
before you do things that sort of set that bad example. And that's something that I sometimes have to remind myself after maybe certain situations that maybe my wife and I are having an argument and they're right there in the living room or something. Well, they're seeing their parents having an argument, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on the severity of that argument that, they should or should not be exposed to that sort of thing. So, those are all things that we have to be very mindful of. They're picking up on everything.
You
How
know,
do you? I'm curious about the argument thing because I grew up in a house where there was quite a bit of fighting and we heard it all and we were it was like we were like ringside like yeah come on go get 'em. Um, and sometimes my wife and I will be bickering and it's like well we don't want to do this in front of the kids but then on the other hand I'm like well shouldn't you be showing kind of conflict resolution and modeling like people fight, people disagree, and it's about how you work through that? Like, what's your thought there, and how do you approach that?
That's a great question. I think that we definitely shouldn't hold back, right? Because it's a family unit. We shouldn't really leave anything on the table. I mean, I know families that they shield their kids from any form of argument. And what it is you're just becoming a family of dismissive avoidance. You know, you're just they'll always sort of see that you know they might have a rosy colored picture later on of their parents with each other. And then that goes into their own relationship later on. And then after one argument with their significant other, just like, oh no, I'm done. This is not the way relationships are built. No, no, no. Your parents were arguing. You just didn't see it,
mhm.
right? So that thing that you're going through now as an adult, you got to look at it really in context of not just your parents, but like overall, is this something that you can actually get past? Is there some conflict resolution here? Where is that line? Now, there are definitely unalienable areas that you just don't go into, name calling for example, right? If the argument gets to such a point where you're name calling or you know you know insulting, and I had an incident where I had made a comment maybe to a colleague or something. My kids were around. I said the word idiot, and then all of a sudden my kids just kept calling each other idiots.
It's 6 and 4.
And my wife is just like, where did they get this from? I'm like, I don't know, probably a TV show. I didn't realize that I had been using that word, and now I'm trying to correct them, but also at the same time, you're trying to correct myself to make sure that I'm more conscious about what the words I say. But not only that, also where's my own personal growth in this? There should never be an occasion where I'm either insulting anyone. So it's part of my own journey of making sure that, hey, use your kids as a way of saying, correct yourself, but at the same time, you know that this is wrong. So why are you going against your own values?
Mm, man, that's I'm not gonna lie. There was what I'm certainly getting to is like there was the era when like my kid was 6 or 4. At 13, like things that are erupting from the room across the hall, and I mean it's all good. I mean he's like talking to his friends and stuff, but it's wild out there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like you have such a you're such a cool, calm, collected guy, AJ. I want to
No
know
way.
this. Well, here's the thing. I want to know, because I think you brought up something very, very true and real. Is that we all know, families, families have all kinds of moments. We have the highs and the lows, right? When you found out you were going to be a dad, how did that hit you? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Or were you just cool, calm, and
Yeah.
collected like you are right now?
I mean, there were probably three distinct moments when it really dawns on you that you're going to become a dad. It's when the first time, okay, she's pregnant. Okay. The second time is when you first hear the heartbeat, right? And then the third
Oh,
time is when they're actually born.
right.
And all three times, I was definitely the first time it was when okay, I'm gonna become a dad. She's pregnant. That's excitement. Wow, this is so awesome! Excitement. And then the next two times are just emotional overload, where you're just like, oh my God, I gotta get control of myself. What is happening right now? Like, my body is reacting to this news in a way that I've never reacted to anything before. And it's not like I teared up, I cried, right? Um, it's just like tears of joy and happiness, and it's something that many of us just don't seek out or don't feel all that often, and you kind of want to hold on to that feeling. You're just like, oh gosh, that's incredible. That really is incredible.
I love that you brought up those three milestone moments. Do you have three milestone moments, Neil? I think this is a fun game to play. I want to try and do this
Yeah.
now with other guests.
I wish I did. It's pretty beautiful. My wife teases me because I didn't cry at the birth of either of our children, but I did cry at probably almost every episode of This Is Us. Um, and my answer to that is those are Emmy award-winning writers. I mean, like the narrative is so well crafted. I just met this baby. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know you yet, and maybe over time, I'll get there.
Once you
Um,
see the rough cut, or at least maybe a
Yeah,
second pass from the
yeah.
editor.
I mean, that's gonna be a pretty good rough cut.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
my lot.
I
What about you?
imagine. No,
Oh,
I was
me?
saying with
The three
Neo, I
mo.
imagine that like the baby's being born and you're already asking it for its union card or something.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. No, you know what? I could see like the
We're
baby's being born.
non-union,
He goes,
AJ. We're keeping costs
yeah,
low.
Yeah.
that's true. But you were probably like, well, maybe we could. If this, I could see the baby coming, and then Neil could be like, listen, even if it doesn't work out the way you think, podcast is an exploding space. So let's put that on the back burner just in case. You
Yeah.
know, in case.
You,
Oh my god, amazing,
you could take
amazing.
the executive approach when the baby comes out. You're just like, listen, I have notes.
Oh, no kidding. I know,
I have
just a few.
notes.
No
Yeah, just a few.
notes. Total
Just a few.
notes. Total notes. Oh my god. Well, I'm right with you too. Like when I think about my three big moments, for sure it was the test. You know what I mean? The pregnancy test was huge. And then for me, and I don't know, call me a little old fashioned, but a big thing for me, big excitement, uh, and spoiler alert, it was all excitement, was the gender reveal. When I found
Mm,
out, it was a boy, I was like, wow, it's crazy. And, like, obviously, whatever, but yeah, I was definitely excited there. And then I think the last one's a tie between when I had to cut the umbilical cord, and I did it.
mm.
I wasn't like nervous, but that was pretty wild stuff. It's also one of the pictures on my camera roll that I'll look back and go, "Oh my god, look at that young man with some scissors." But the other thing was for me, it's a tie between that and when they were like, "Yeah, you can go now," and I'm like, "Are you sure?" Like, we spent the night or something, but I was like not prepared to leave the hospital. Neither my wife and I. We were like, no, let's just stick around. I feel like we can do this as a team. And they're like,
Yeah.
nah, it's time to go. And then we had to pile in the car, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's when it got real. So that was less thrilling joy and more just like, whoa, we're on our own. Yeah, that's my big three moments. Good stuff. Good stuff.
What is can I ask a question
Yeah.
about did you feel prepared for bringing the baby home?
No.
Like was it more of like a material thing or just more of an emotional thing?
Yes, to all of it. In general, my lack of preparation will probably haunt me till the day I leave this planet. It's something. Yeah, it's crazy. I feel new waves of it now because there's one point where I'm kind of, and this is just me. I feel like my life professionally, has always been kind of ups and downs, bit of a roller coaster, and it's crazy. I kind of am like, oh, I wish, yeah, there were things that were simply more secure. I've actually taken solace in the last few years. I had a big dad epiphany moment, and the timing of this podcast was quite well timed because it was when my kid graduated fifth grade, which ushered him into middle school, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
whoa. And now I feel it sucks. I hate it. I do this a lot, but I spend too much time looking in the rear view, so to speak. But it's kind of awesome because our phones give us those little memories and stuff like that, which are kind of adorbs. But yeah, it's crazy. I can sit here and go, oh, I want to savor it. Meanwhile, my kid's out there. I could be doing stuff
Yeah.
with him right now, but I feel like so much of it is just kind of sharing notes for those of us in the trenches. But yeah, never prepared. No prepper. I'm not prepared for this. I'm winging it.
It's
He's
so
doing it's improv dadding.
Yeah, I'm improv dad,
yeah.
definitely. But I didn't finish the improv Olympic course. I was like, I got this.
Yeah. Yes, and I don't know what happens next. I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned about like the memories. That's so unique to our times to be able to go down memory lane. Do you ever have moments where
hmm
like you're brought down memory lane and you didn't intend to, and now you're completely in a different mindset? Like, I'll give you an example. Um, so if you have a Google enabled TV or something like that, and you have your Google Photos
hmm
hooked up to it, and if you're
hmm
anything like, crazy like me, where I organize my Google Photos like a crazy person,
hmm
and it just starts serving me and it goes into screensaver status on my TV if you're not watching it after a certain period of time. And then all of a
hmm
sudden it just starts hitting you with pictures from 10 years ago and 15
Right.
years ago, and it knows
Yeah.
how to match everything up perfectly. And then all of a sudden my wife and I like will stop working and we're just now looking at pictures. And this
Yeah.
happens like once every few weeks when it accidentally goes into that mode, and we just look at each other and we're like, oh my gosh, time is moving really
Yeah.
quickly. Should we go
Yeah.
pick them up early from daycare? Should we go like I don't know, let's take them to Disney World this weekend or something. I don't know. It puts you in a whole different mood and mindset of like, questioning everything and like, oh, what should I be doing more of? What should I be doing, less of? Where do I take it from here?
Yeah.
It is funny. I never, unfortunately, my dad passed by the time my son was 3, but he was always someone who, I feel like he certainly in years past, he would have been very excited to enter the grandfather era. One of the few things I kind of got from him in terms of the experience of passing on fatherly advice from him to me was when I told him that we were going to have a kid, and he goes, "You're going to have all those experiences." I mean, he kind of muttered that, like, "Oh, you're going to have all these experiences," and that's how I feel every time. Yeah, the phone pops up all these pictures and stuff. I'm always quick to catch myself because I remember my dad would always like look at some picture in a picture frame he'd have, because that was the
Yeah.
old ways. And he'd be like, oh, look at how you once were. And I've always been very conscious of not trying to like go, oh, I like this time more than the current time right now in front of my kid.
Mhm.
But it is funny because privately, this stuff pops up on the phone, and I'll show my wife, and we're just like, wow, remember that? And of course, like I kind of it's a marvel to look at, and to watch like this little person kind of grow up. I try not to go, oh, I wish I was back then. No, but
Mhm.
it's incredibly powerful. I mean, it's such an emotional draw that is literally built out of technology. So I feel you on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting too because I think like any, technology always has it's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, I think if you were to look in my phone now, I have over 30,000 photos and I do the Google Cloud and Amazon Photos and all that because I have a compulsive digital hoarder since my wife
Hmm.
doesn't allow me to be a physical hoarder, which I understand. But I think it's interesting because it both allows us to chronicle everything and be acutely aware of that passage of time, but then also spend the present time like chronicling it instead of just being in it. Whereas I think like maybe an older generation, they would just kind of take a VHS and then put it in the closet or have a photo album that, it disappears. And so then when you do finally pull it out, you're like, oh my God, this was so long ago. And we don't even have that as much because every day you're getting a, push from Google that's like 5 years ago. Hey, remember this? Like they're constantly
Hmm.
trying to get us to engage with our own past. And it's like
Yeah.
I feel like nostalgia in the future is just going to be like nostalgia about nostalgia.
It is really wild. Like I think, yeah, there's something you said so poignantly about the VHS, just what happens to it, like that
Hmm.
VHS tape is kind of like the current version is when you're recording video on your phone at a concert. Like you're never going to look at this footage
Yeah.
again. There's no purpose to it. But now we have, these memories at our fingertips and that emotional rush. I remember like one of the sadder things of my dad, like, is he would take pictures, but he never got around to putting a lot of these pictures in an album, and they all got I mean, when he had to, like, move away from his home and downsize into assisted living, unfortunately, like, so much stuff just got trashed. It just did not get
Mm.
saved and stuff like that. And what's interesting is we don't have that. I feel like that was, a really sad moment in his life that we don't necessarily have to deal with because of this technology thing. I can only imagine what it'll be like when our kids become parents. That's frightening to me,
Yeah.
like, I mean, we already have self-driving cars. It's freaking nuts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be an overload of memories on their end. Like we literally saved everything. I do wonder, Neil, with what you said of this repeated nostalgia hitting us, is that good for us or bad for us? Like, where's the line on that? Because if it is good for us, okay, maybe it helps us recalibrate every time we see it and remember a greater truth on how we should like sort of live moving forward. It's good to have those, subtle reminders that time is passing. Go spend time with your kids, or go give your parents a call, or things like that. Right? It sort of inspires small actions that. But also on the flip side, it also puts pressure on you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
rather than continuing the momentum of your journey when you're constantly looking back, you're kind of putting more pressure on yourself to either be a certain way rather than just being, right? I don't know.
You know, I feel like the one of the big things about this podcast is recognizing that, the window. It sounds so like doomsday, the window's closing, but, like, this is all finite, as you said at the top of this. Time is a commodity, and recognizing that, you know the things. What's so funny? Like, for me, I'm like, oh yeah, that was like just a couple years ago. My kid's like, bruh, I was in fifth grade. That was like ancient history to them. So I think it's interesting to have this reminder that time is moving fast. Because for us, it's like, oh yeah, dude, 2 years, 5 years, it all starts to blend, bleed all together. But for them, it's huge. Like freaking three
Hmm.
months is a huge part of the epic. Like major chapter in their odyssey. So I don't know. Like, it's that 0 to 18. I think sadly happens so much faster than we realize as adults living in the modern world. So I don't know. And I say this kind of going, I my kid's about to start eighth grade, and I'm literally like, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah,
Like,
seriously. And then
it's
he starts
freaking
high
crazy.
school.
Yeah, like, it's all happening. Like, we were out hanging out with some people. and I did this like food tour, and like I'm with adults, and my kid came along. And the crazy thing is he's 13, right? And these guys are like 30. He was closer to their age than I was to them. Like
Oh
that's what's
no.
freaking, yeah. Think about that. Think about
Yeah.
that. That's, you know what I mean. And it's coming. I swear it's coming. So yeah, maybe be thankful for the phone. Maybe pull them from daycare a little early. I don't know, man. I mean, we all have responsibilities, and life's a freaking
What
grind and a hustle. But yeah, it's
what do you do though? Because all three of us kind of work in media and have some sort of differing level of interest and obsession in screens and stories what's the policy in the Feliciano home with screens, screen time, movies, TV, podcasts, video games? Like, how do you guys handle all that or hope to handle it?
Uh Gosh, it's funny because we work in media and because we have our own fandoms. Um, I've been excited recently that both of my kids got into Star Wars, and I
mm,
never introduced them to it. I used to be like a huge Star Wars fan. I used to have like huge toy collections and everything, all of which I sold, and now I regret
mm,
because they're so into it now.
mm,
And so I'm at the phase that because they're discovering and they understand movies that I used to be so fanatical about way back when, um, I'm engaging with it and I'm like celebrating it. And I just showed him, A New Hope for the first time 3 days ago. And it was
mm,
the coolest thing ever that they were following the story. And, we're about to get started. We're kind of going all over the place. I'm about to show them, Attack of the Clones. But yeah, they were also watching some like old 80s classics and they were also watching all this other stuff. And I was thinking that there's no way that you can understand media with real people. All you watch is like Bluey and like other animated properties, but no, they're like they get it. They get it. But I'm sure that there's going to come a point in time that we have to sort of pull back on certain things because it starts to disrupt their behavior. It starts to disrupt, some of those patterns. And so I'm already seeing it with the
mm.
introduction of the Switch from January. That even today, this morning, he's always asking for the Switch. And after, if we forget about him because both of us are working full time, right? Clickety clack, clack, clack on our, and we forget that has been on it for hours. Then the
Mm-hmm.
moment he puts it down, he has this like shift. He's just like, "Whoa, I've been in this other environment." And then he acts like just a monster for the rest of the day. And so yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that out.
So we have like VPN, we've got screen time limits on all the devices, but the one
Mm,
catch 22 is the freaking Switch because we can't do that. Literally last night my wife's just like on the master machine, controlling stuff, but like we'll have to pull the Switch at night cuz he'll just like cuz the thing is Switch has YouTube. It's not like he's like, oh yeah, I'm just
does.
trying to beat Zelda. It's like, no, and it's weird that YouTube thing's a whole other. I mean, it's the doom scrolling. The doom scrolling, like at one point, I was like, oh my god, this guy likes doom scrolling more than anything else. And
Hmm.
that certainly carries with it that like, nonstop impulse. You're constantly just getting like that.
Dopamine hit.
Constantly entertained. Yeah, you know what I mean. It doesn't stop, and it's wild. Like I remember at one point, speaking of Star Wars, I was like, I think I well at the time I pulled the plug on Disney Plus because I was like, we're paying for this, but I thought this would be the most magical thing ever. We've got freaking every Star Wars thing and all this stuff, but he just really wasn't interested in it. He started to come around a little bit. What's kind of trippy is like at some point he's just like, oh yeah, Order 66, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and it's weird. Part of it is because of the YouTube doom scrolling, because there's
Hmm.
every topic under the sun under there too. But it's weird. Like he just somehow quietly, right under my nose, he sat there and frickin' just destroy. He just watched so much anime. Anime's obviously exploded in this streaming era too, and so
Hmm.
that's been pretty wild as well. Like that's something I'm like, when did this happen? couple years ago, he's just like wandering downstairs. I'm sleeping in on a Saturday, and he's just like crushing through all this anime stuff.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing about like media is that because of the age that they're in, um, it's such a fascinating learning experience for them in their world building and understanding different things through story. They understand the hidden meaning and nuance behind some of the storylines we see in Star Wars. They might be having an argument against one another, and then the little one sort of talks back to me, and then the bigger one then tells him, "Hey, you don't want to be like the way Luke and Vader were as a father and son." Like obviously he says it in his own 6-year way, but he understands certain subjects and themes, and actually I've seen him apply it to like real life in some ways. So then you have to be very careful about what they're consuming. Obviously, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I'm at that phase where it's really exciting.
yeah.
That they're discovering some of this stuff for the first time.
I mean, that's just, hey, you know what? Cheers to George Lucas for,
Cheers to George Lucas. Yeah.
yeah, he did it right. He did it right. It's practically parenting. Did he know when he made Star Wars in 1977 he would be covering good parenting in 2025? Just saying that out
Seriously.
loud is crazy, right? That's just crazy to say.
Seriously,
Yeah.
as just like a way for fathers and sons and daughters to just like bond. That is so super cool, dude. It has been a really cool thing. They keep asking me for lightsabers, and so
Mm.
I'm just like my heart. I'm like, okay, we'll go get a lightsaber, and
Yeah.
so we'll do this fun thing where we'll go into my upstairs sort of living space area, and I'll grab the Bose speaker and I'll blast. I will absolutely blast. What's Oh gosh, the one of the main titles from Star Wars, right? Duel of the Fates. Duel of the Fates.
Uh-huh.
And the three of us just go battling it out with just lit up lightsabers, and it is the most fun ever. That I think that's probably going to be one of my better memories in the future.
Do your
Yeah.
kids like Star Wars, Neil?
Funny you say that. I'm not a huge Star Wars person. I saw the episodes 4, 5, and 6. I was in middle school when they came back into theaters, and so I went and saw those. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw one of the later ones that were kind of
Bad.
had mixed reviews.
Yeah.
I was kind of like a fair weather fan. We've never shown any Star Wars content to the kids, and our 4-year-old, 4.5-year-old starts coming home a few months ago, and he's talking about Darth Vader and Luke, and we're like, "Are you watching this at school?" No, there's a couple boys in his class who are so obsessed with
Hmm.
Star Wars that they will play a game where my wife told me the game they play at lunch is they whisper like, and you have to say the character that they're mouthing,
Uh-huh.
and be
Okay.
like, "Who did I say?"
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan
Right.
Kenobi.
This is a game 4-year-old boys play in the lunchroom, which it could be worse. It's very adorable. But so he knows Chewbacca, he knows, you know, yeah, R2D2, C3PO. But he's still never seen a frame of it. So we're like, we've
Weird.
got to dip our
Yeah.
toe. I think we're gonna show him the cartoon version on Disney. There's like a
Hmm.
cartoon Star
Yeah.
Wars.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting. You did kind of, I mean, I grew up, I was born when the first one came out, but it was so iconic. And it was also like hard to, back when media was very selective, you'd have to go to the trouble of going to a Blockbuster video. So like it was always kind of like so top tier. We're at a phase now where I don't know how this came about. I blame that guy Liam Stapleton, the guy who does impressions on TikTok. He's really funny. He does tons of them, and he basically does impressions, and then he'll make these videos where he's basically bothering his wife, and he does a great Jar Jar. And we've all been doing Jar Jar. Even my wife has dropped here and there. She'll just say, "How rude," and we're like, "Whoa!" I mean, that is
Wow.
huge for her to jump into the Jar Jar camp with us is wild. So that's where we're at right now. We'll just drop a little Jar Jar here and there.
Yeah. Coolest wife ever, by the way, to drop a Jar Jar Binks impression. Super cool.
I guarantee you she was like, if you can't beat him, join him. I promise you that.
Yes,
Yeah, that was.
I love that.
Yeah, we're in the Jar Jar phase. It's good
Hey, by
stuff.
the way, I know we're almost up on time, but
Mm.
Ollie, you just said Blockbuster. There's some things I feel so bad for my kids about. I'm like, they will never know the joy of walking through a Blockbuster and
Mm.
seeing that there were copies available of whatever movie they were looking to, get that Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
And also knowing the disappointment when it's not there, but very much needs to be felt because that's all part of their development as well. Sometimes you can't have it your way. But how exciting was that to like walk through a Blockbuster and, pick out a movie with your parents and then sort of compromise right there on the spot. Okay, one for me, one for you. Those sorts of things. And yeah, that was a really good time.
What
Now
were
it's
were
just
were there
scrolling.
some yeah, were there some movies growing up that you guys would watch like over and over?
Oh my God, like loads. I mean, I sadly did not grow up with cable TV, and so and also like for some reason like I don't know, like my dad, like he would, back in the old technology days, it was a big deal to be like, well, we decided to buy a VCR. Nowadays it's like, I just bought a DVD, I bought a Blu-ray player just right now for no reason. You know what I mean? Now we can buy stuff and it comes. But I remember like, it was like, we would wait till the holiday time, be like, yeah, let's see if there's a sale and we'll get a VCR. And it was expensive too. I remember it was like $400, and this is like 1985. But for some, yeah, we didn't have cable, so I would buy some movies, and I would just watch those. And I mean, I'm older at this point. One movie I would watch over and over and over again was Goodfellas, and I would even
Mm,
time it out to like when it would be the prison scene and they're cooking the garlic. I would like come back from like the Italian deli with like a veal
cutting the
parm
garlic.
sandwich. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's cutting the garlic, and I would be like cue it up, and that was like me watching Food Network. I just queued up Goodfellas to the garlic scene, and then I just open up my veal parm and just go to town. Yeah,
Nice. That is
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah.
What'd
Goodfellas
you
is
what'd
so
you
good.
watch growing up, AJ? What did you break the tape on?
I mean, I think I was born in the mid '80s, and I think I was probably a generation removed. I love John Hughes films.
Mm.
Think that they're absolutely timeless. Um, I mean, today they're not only nostalgic for the past, but you look back at the creative filmmaking and the writing and something that's seemingly so simple by today's standards, you just realize just how important of a story it was of seeing how teenagers grew up and how they a lot of themes that just resonate today. So John Hughes films, Steven Spielberg films, even that era where Steven Spielberg was involved in animation, he had a few good hits. I mean, the Fievel series, An American Tail, and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
You know, the original Jurassic Park, all the campy stuff from the early '90s, all the John Candy stuff from the '80s, and it's just my kids watched The Great Outdoors last week with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd,
Yeah.
and I
That's
put it on just to feel something good, right? I'm so tired of everything I see on Netflix. But then when I see some of these oldies and I'm just like, I want to feel good right now. Put on the Great
mm-hmm.
Outdoors, just like, wow, how cool is that? Or Summer Rental or things like that. They were watching the Great Outdoors and I thought that they would be bored. But no, this 4 and 6 year old, they were into it. They were laughing. They understood the comedy. They understood what was actually happening.
Mm.
And so that made me feel good.
Yeah. No, that's I think it's interesting. Like you can really, especially I think at the age your kids are, you have an opportunity to really kind of like, you know, teach them the classics, if you will. Like
Hmm.
I think my son's gotten over it now, but there were times where he'd be like, oh, like when we would watch when the new Top Gun came out, I'm like, well, you got to watch the original. And the problem with some of the movies is because they are dated to a degree. He would drop the term, "Ooh, is this going to be cringy?" He's kind of gotten over it now because we watched the original Gladiator, and the first time I tried to show it to him, he was like, "This is kind of cringy." I'm like, "Damn, I was like a grown man when I watched this movie in the movie theater." But it's but I think like yeah, right now. Now's the time for them to watch the old '96er. That I will watch that scene over and over again. I'm curious because you brought up John Hughes, and those are, I'm almost like more into them now. I don't know, maybe it is a nostalgia thing, but do you have a favorite? Because they're varied a bit. Is there one John Hughes? If I had to like gun to a head, AJ, what's the if you can only watch one John Hughes movie, what would it be?
I mean, I know that this is so mainstream, but Home Alone,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
It is just timeless. I think
Hmm.
that's the first real person um movie, or let's call it franchise. It's weird calling Home Alone a franchise. That my kids saw. And
Mm.
ever since then, they just they make jokes. They're just like, Kevin, whenever one of them is going to get in trouble or something. And they don't even call the movie around, the holidays, they don't even call it Home Alone. They're just like, can we watch Kevin? Can we watch
Huh.
Kevin?
Yeah.
And I'm so proud to put it on for them. When I showed them Home Alone 2, when they're in New York, it was a way. And then we actually just did a big family trip to New Jersey and New York, my wife's college reunion. I also got to show them where I went to school in grad school. And we took them to New York in that same trip. And they kept making references to Home Alone, right? Between the new FAO Schwartz at 30 Rock that we took them to, um, and other aspects of it. Like they were just more excited about going to New York because they had seen it in a movie. And so I think maybe that's my affinity to Home Alone right now, is because it helped me sort of pave the way to uh, um, a new experience for my kids.
Well, what I realized because they're tied in. It's that age. Like my kids, we'll watch Home Alone because it's a Christmas movie. Period. Point blank. So
Hmm.
that's part of the rotation. It's weird. Like part of me is like I love Breakfast Club, but I love Ferris. You know what I mean? Ferris to me was like, especially growing up in the '80s. You're like, this is the ideal. I wanna have the world by the frickin' cojones when I'm 16 years old. That Ferris to me
Hmm.
is the ultimate. See, you're more '90s, Neil. Do you care for John Hughes at all,
Yeah.
or is it too old for you?
Sure. Yeah, huge Home Alone guy.
Okay.
No, I love Ferris Bueller, love Home Alone. Um, those would probably be Breakfast Club. Could take it or leave it. Um,
It's a little too
hey
'80s.
AJ, I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then
Sure.
Ollie's gonna do the dad lightning
Oh yeah,
round if you'll
that's right.
indulge us.
Yes.
Okay.
Is quite riveting. So I guess what when your kids are grown, imagine they're coming back from college for the holidays. Maybe they're bringing a friend, maybe a significant other. How are you hoping that they describe you? Like, oh, my dad's kind of like this, or he was always like. What do you flash forward? How are you thinking they're talking about their dad, AJ?
Oh man. Oh
He's,
boy, this is a tough one.
yeah, he does. He does do
Um,
these.
okay, I hope that they describe me as open-minded.
Mm.
Because say it's say they're bringing home somebody that maybe they haven't seen me exposed to in the past, right? Whether it's like a different culture or religion or something that they might have a lot of questions that they would think that I have a lot of questions for. I hope that by that point I will have shown my kids that I'm sure that there's plenty I haven't seen in the world, but there's so much that I have seen and have um, been exposed to and supported and advocated for,
Mm.
and just I try to consider myself as open-minded as possible, and I hope that they know that as well, for whenever they bring new people to me, that I would find ways to engage with them, connect with them on their level to make sure that they feel comfortable when we're meeting for the first time. I hope they feel secure, right?
Love it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's why we ask the hard questions.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Cut to the
All right,
bone.
Ollie, take it away. I'm going to count you down. AJ, Ollie is going to ask you 12 questions for our Dad Lightning round. There are no wrong answers. 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Dad Lightning round. All right, AJ. Number 1. Super strength or invisibility? Super strength or invisibility?
Oh, super strength. I'm scared of what invisibility might bring about in my world.
Wow. You're a deep thinker. That's what we've learned today for sure. Okay. Most dangerous toy in your house right now?
It depends on what you would describe. Oh, an actual toy, something that was built for it to literally be a children's toy.
Yeah, it's a toy that's dangerous.
Yeah, lightsabers.
Yeah. I was going to say, just go with lightsaber. I mean, that, you know. Yeah, that would hurt, you know. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Best parenting advice in 5 words or less.
Don't take anyone's advice.
I think that was 5. We'll take it. Okay. And this is perfect for kids your age. Coffee or sleep? Pick one.
Oh, coffee.
I was going to say, I think
coffee. I'm already living on 5 hours a night. I can get by, but I need at least 5 cups of coffee in the morning to get me going. So,
all right. The kids are asleep. Netflix, Xbox, or just enjoy the silence?
Steal their Switch and go hide in the backyard.
Bingo. I like that answer. That works too.
Meaning, like, I'll play their video game.
Yeah, totally. Totally. No,
Yeah.
but there are times where literally I'm quoting my son, even just on my latest trip, and he's like, it's my Switch, because I was playing it. Favorite book to read with your kids?
Favorite book to read with my kids. Which reminds me, I should be reading more with my kids. My wife has been doing a lot of it lately, so thank you. My favorite book to read with my kids. We did. I don't know. This is not reading, but we've been really into Where's Waldo. They get so excited when they find them, and so we bought them like this very large set, and we still haven't gone through everything, but it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. No. Waldo's great. Favorite bowl of cereal?
This sounds boring, but Frosted Flakes.
Yeah. Zucaritas. Last movie you loved that you showed to your kids?
The Great Outdoors.
There you go.
Yeah.
Last thing your kid said that blew your mind?
When they made a real life reference referring to Darth Vader being Luke Skywalker's father. Spoiler alert for everybody out there.
There you go. Most you've ever paid your kids for chores?
I have not paid my kids for chores yet.
Keep it
but
that
I did
way.
introduce to them the piggy bank. And we do have one of these assignment task things that we're trying to get them into, but I'm sure at some point I'll have to introduce money into the equation.
You know what? I said keep it that way, but it's not true. I think my wife spearheaded the whole thing, and it's to a degree, it's really worth it. He still ends up spending all the money he earns, but that's another problem. Hot dogs or hamburgers?
Hot dogs.
Okay, all right. Best part about being a dad?
Best part about being a dad is introducing them to things you love, and they love it too. I'm not disappointed if the alternative happens, but when you hit the right spot and you know them so well that something that you liked growing up Either you introduced them to an old toy and now it's like their favorite one, or you took them to a baseball game and they had a
Mm,
ton of fun.
mm.
Or showed them a movie or Lord knows what. Something that's meaningful to me that I can share with my kids. It's just, it's the greatest feeling in the world.
Wow. Awesome.
AJ Feliciano, thank you for coming on the show, and thanks for being the world's greatest dad.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure being on this show. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.